MC for ICFJ's Tribute to Journalists, Jonathan Capehart.
All right, I was told to do this, especially that table 2 or 3 over there. Yeah, I heard y'all laughing. You have to tell me what you were laughing about later. Thank you, and welcome to the ICFJ Tribute to Journalists Awards event. It is my great honor to return as MC tonight. It has been, thank you. It has been another year of dizzying events here in the US and around the world. Violence on a level not seen in decades in the Middle East erupted after the horrific terrorist attack on Israel by Hamas and Israel's retaliation in Gaza. Wolf Blitzer will not be with us in person this evening because he is doing what he does best, covering this huge story. But Wolf will speak to us from Tel Aviv later. Elsewhere in the world, Russia's war against Ukraine entered its second year with no clear end in sight. Natural disasters, many fueled by climate change, have caused heartbreaking damage and loss of life. Here at home, our country has never been more polarized politically as we head into a critical election season. Hot button issues from abortion to immigration weigh heavily on all of us. Amid all this, generative AI is poised to multiply the already dangerous scourge of misinformation. The role of journalists to spread factual, reliable information has never been more vital, and ICFJ's role in supporting those journalists across the globe is more important than ever. You'll hear from many of them tonight, and you will be inspired by all that they are doing to fight disinformation, hold the powerful accountable, and amplify the voices of the most vulnerable. We encourage you to post about our awards on the platform of your choice using the hashtag ICFJ Awards. And now let's celebrate our first award winner. Please welcome Julie Pace, Executive Editor and Senior Vice President of the Associated Press, to present the 2023 Excellence in International Reporting.
Thank you, Jonathan. It is an honor for me to be here tonight to present this award to Jacqueline Charles, Caribbean correspondent for the Miami Herald. Jacqueline tells compelling and often groundbreaking stories from Haiti. For many people, Haiti can feel like it's a world away, but it's just 800 miles from the United States and vitally important to South Florida. Jacqueline's expertise on the Caribbean and her deep empathy for its people are unmatched. Let's watch a video narrated by Yamiche Alcindor of NBC News, who has a deep connection to Haiti herself.
It is with great pleasure that I introduce our first winner of the night, a dear friend of mine whose talent and dedication as a journalist I deeply admire. Haiti is a nation in collapse. Armed groups control the capital, unleashing terror through killings, kidnappings, and blockades of essential services. People forced out of their homes by the security crisis have nowhere to turn. Jacqueline Charles is one of the few journalists ensuring U.S. audiences know what's happening in Haiti and the larger Caribbean. A challenging, critical assignment she has relentlessly carried out for more than 2 decades at the Miami Herald.
I want to bring in Jacqueline Charles. Jacqueline, there's been turmoil there for months.
There's been turmoil there for years.
Charles has strong ties to the region. She was born in Turks and Caicos to a Haitian mother who brought her to the U.S. as a child. She first joined the Herald as a high school intern and returned after graduating from the University of North Carolina. With her fluency in Creole, she quickly became invaluable to the Herald and dove straight into Haiti coverage.
There's a saying in Miami, which is that when Haiti sneezes, Miami catches a cold. For people in Miami, Haiti is not a foreign story, it is a local story. We have one of the largest Haitian American communities in the United States, and we see the contributions of that community here in terms of healthcare, in terms of education, in the business climate.
When Haiti was rocked by its deadliest quake in 2010, claiming at least 200,000 lives, Charles arrived on the ground within hours. She documented the grueling recovery over 18 months.
Prior to the 2010 earthquake, we had 4 back-to-back tropical storms and hurricanes in 2008. We had food riots, we had babies dying, I had a school collapse. Nothing could have prepared me for what happened in 2010.
Charles tracked Haitian migrants to the U.S.-Mexico border in 2016 to understand why they had taken such dangerous journeys.
Being on this island, there's no water, there's no economy, there's no food, there's no hope. For them, they say, you're already dead. So what if you take the risk and you actually die?
In 2018, Charles and her colleague shined a light on Haiti's struggling health system. The series, in partnership with the Pulitzer Center, revealed cancer patients who had received little to no treatment and lost all hope. After the report, 2 health programs in the country came together to expand care for pediatric cancer patients. Haiti plunged further into turmoil in 2021 when President Jovenel Moïse was assassinated. Charles broke the news that Moïse phoned for help just minutes before he was shot. She led a team that shed light on the crime and its ties to South Florida. Escalating violence in Haiti has made it tougher for Charles to do her job. But she persists, knowing that as a journalist, she can make a difference.
I realized that I was in a position to tell people's stories, to give voice to people who normally don't have access to people in power or access to decision makers. That is why I'm a journalist. That's why I continue to love journalism.
Please join me in congratulating and welcoming Jacqueline Charles.
In this world, there exist places where lives are lost every day due to violence, war, disease, malnutrition, and natural disasters. These places are often remote, impoverished, ravaged by conflict, and predominantly populated by people of color. They have little freedom of the press. Their stories remain largely untold, except when an American is killed or kidnapped. Fortunately, the Miami Herald and McClatchy have generously provided me with the platform, time, and resources to shed light on these neglected stories. This is why I humbly stand before you tonight to accept this award. It's because my media outlets understand the importance of sharing these stories. They comprehend that when we expose the darkness, change can emerge. I extend my heartfelt thanks to ICFJ for this unexpected and incredible honor, and for the opportunity to stand alongside these esteemed journalists. A decade ago, you took me to Kenya and introduced me to African journalists struggling with press freedom issues. I am forever grateful. I also want to thank my editor, Jay DeCassi, who's here, who who is always available to me, and my new executive editor, Alex Mena, who has been an inspiration to me and other immigrants. My deepest thanks to my support network, especially my niece Edith, also here, my former editor, Nancy Samartzine, as well in the audience, and my fellow NABJ Journalist of the Year, Washington Post columnist, Karen Attia. According to the Center to Protect Journalists, a dozen Haitian journalists have lost their lives in recent years, 7 of them just last year. Many others have had to flee after kidnappings, shootings, and watching their homes or radio stations go up in flames. Journalists no longer enjoy the freedom to freely enter the slums and converse with an 11-year-old girl burdened with the responsibility of raising the child of her rapist, a gang member. We can no longer access camps to speak with the latest wave of refugees fleeing as rival armed gangs descend upon their community in a harrowing display of violence. Tonight, Haiti teeters on the precipice of anarchy and chaos, marked by a pervasive sense of hopelessness and anger. My colleague, photographer Jose Iglesias, and I saw this firsthand last year as we were briefly held hostage while reporting in a small town. When journalists are absent to document what has occurred or what is occurring, the door is open to anything. I am deeply grateful for the recognition of my work, which compels me to challenge each of you to join me on this vital but perilous journey. Let's put a human face on the consequences of failed policies and decisions and emphasize that culture, language, and geography should not deprive anyone of their entitlement to life and hope. In a world increasingly dealing with global crises and the looming threat of war, I implore you not to forget Haiti. Its people are proud, but they are in desperate need of our passion, compassion, and courage to meet them where they are. Let us be the ones to tell their stories. Thank you.
Just so the other awardees know, that award is really heavy. You were forewarned. Jacqueline Charles, thank you so very much for your work bringing these stories to us and for that really beautiful and impassioned speech. Let's hope that better days are ahead for Haiti. Photography helps us understand crises like these, so please don't forget that you can bid on the amazing photos donated by 17 of the world's best photographers. The auction will close at 9:15 p.m. Washington time. Now, I am happy to introduce ICFJ President Sharon Moshavi.
Thank you, Jonathan. In 2024, democracy could fall off a cliff. That's a quote from Nobel Peace Prize winner and ICFJ awardee, Maria Ressa. She says that because next year will be unprecedented in election history. More than 2.5 billion people in 81 countries are going to the polls to elect their leaders, including in some of the world's largest democracies, India, Indonesia, Mexico, and of course here in the US. As campaigns intensify, so will disinformation efforts designed to sway these elections and spread lies at a scale we have really never before witnessed. And let's be clear, journalists are on the front lines in the battle for democracy. And at ICFJ, we believe it is mission critical to help journalists use every tool at their disposal to combat the spread of mis and disinformation. Let's watch a video narrated by journalist Nikita Roy about how ICFJ and the journalists in our network are making a real difference.
Disinformation is more sophisticated and harmful than ever before. I am one of the thousands of journalists working to fight it with ICFJ's help. My news outlet serves the Indian diaspora, a population of 32 million people living in the US and elsewhere across the world. To help our users spot lies and stop their spread, my team and I built a chatbot on WhatsApp, media literacy skills for the digital age. Others are revealing the inner workings of disinformation campaigns. Laura Sofia Matiz and her team uncovered how a company recruited social media users in Colombia, Guatemala, and Mexico to sway elections, promising just $10 to $20 for certain political posts.
It's important to analyze and determine how these people is making profits based on misinformation, because it's not just affecting normal people, but it's also affecting how we are going to find the world in our democracies in the next 10 or 15 years.
The investigation was part of an ICFJ program that trained, mentored, and funded cross-border teams. Another team's reporting on disinformation targeting migrants in Mexico on their way to the US was published by the Associated Press and picked up by more than 100 news outlets. Across the Atlantic, in the capital of the Central African Republic, some people see Wagner Group mercenaries from Russia as saviors, hired by the CAR government to quell extremist uprisings. Journalist Philip Obaji Jr. is pushing back against the propaganda despite threats to his life. Obaji has uncovered as many as 100 human rights abuses.
What the Kremlin is doing is that it is exploiting Africa and the natural resources on the continent to fund the war in Ukraine. If we don't expose what Russia is doing in Africa, it could get worse for Africans and indeed for the entire world.
Zahra Nader is also fighting lies. From Exile in Canada, the media founder has built a network of mostly women reporters in her home country of Afghanistan. In just a year, the journalists on the ground helped publish more than 90 investigations and 200 news articles, risking their lives to do so. After the Taliban returned to power in 2021, women led peaceful protests, but their brave acts were met with torture and even murder. Nader and her colleagues documented this pattern, tracking down witnesses who saw Taliban gunmen dump bodies on the street. Nader, who is receiving equipment and training from ICFJ, is motivated by her own experience fleeing the Taliban as a child.
It's very, very personal for me because I can see myself being in Afghanistan and I can feel the suffering and pain of the people, and especially women journalists, because I was a woman journalist there.
The thousands of journalists in the ICFJ network, like Nader, Obaji, and Matiz, are battling censorship, propaganda, and disinformation. Their efforts come as artificial intelligence threatens to supercharge lies, and as elections in dozens of countries determine the fate of democracy. But in this fight for the truth, those of us working to deliver trustworthy, essential news are not alone. Thanks to ICFJ and supporters like you.
So as you saw there, these are just a few of the journalists that ICFJ serves, more than 160,000 of them across the globe. We believe in the power of networks to counter an increasingly siloed and polarized world. Our Pamela Howard Forum on Global Crisis Reporting helps thousands of members cover the critical issues of our time for their local audiences. We fostered an investigative reporting network in Latin America that has exposed almost $40 billion in stolen and mismanaged public funds. And now we're building a similar network across Southeast Asia. We help journalists collaborate to harness AI for good. We help media entrepreneurs work together to create new business models. We conduct research into much-needed new ways to deepen trust with audiences. As we watch the tragedy unfold in the Middle East, we are all relying on so many journalists to help us understand this crisis. I was a reporter based in Jerusalem for nearly 4 years. I saw the way bad journalism can inflame tensions. Good journalism can help us make decisions informed by facts, not vitriol. This is hard work, but it is work that we at ICFJ are committed to doing in the Middle East and everywhere. And of course, we couldn't do any of this without your support. So here's how you can give. You can use the QR code on the back of your Tribute program or follow the directions on the screens. And thank you so much for joining us and for all of your support.
Thank you, Sharon. Now let's get back to the awards. I'm pleased to introduce Jim Brady, Vice President for Journalism at the John S. and James L. Knight Foundation. Jim has been a leader at traditional news outlets and a digital pioneer in local news. He and the foundation are among ICFJ's greatest supporters. Jim.
Thank you, Jonathan. Knight Foundation has been a proud supporter of ICFJ since its founding almost 40 years ago. And I'm so pleased to announce that support will continue thanks to a grant approved by Knight's board last month to continue to fund the extraordinary Knight International Journalism Fellowships. ICFJ Knight Fellows are making a tremendous difference around the world. One fellow has helped exiled media outlets protect themselves and their work from governments. And here in the US, another fellow created a network to combat rampant disinformation in Spanish-speaking communities, an especially important issue for the 2024 elections. We also support ICFJ through the Knight International Journalism Awards. These honor global journalists who show extraordinary courage and impact. Past winners include Nobel Peace Prize honoree Maria Ressa of the Philippines, exiled Russian investigative journalism pioneer Roman Anin, and Egyptian news entrepreneur Lina Atala, whose outlet broke the story that led to the recent charges against U.S. Senator Robert Menendez. Lina's work is clear evidence for how much we in the U.S. need a vibrant international news media. I want to recognize 2012 ICFJ Knight Award winner Sami Mahdi and last year's winner Anisa Shahid, both of Afghanistan, who are with us tonight. Please stand up if you're out there. With the help of ICFJ and Knight Foundation, Sami left Kabul just before the Taliban took over. He has since started Amu News, providing important coverage of his country from exile. Anisa is now a freelance journalist and research fellow at Princeton University, studying women's liberation movements in her native country. Finally, I want to mention that just today, ICFJ published a big data case study about online violence being committed at a horrific level against 2016 winner Carmen Aristegui of Mexico. ICFJ research has shown a powerful light on the trend of digital abuse of women journalists. And now, I'm thrilled to present the first Knight International Journalism Award to Mariam Ouédraogo of Burkina Faso. Mariam is highlighting the impact of extremist violence in a sadly overlooked part of Africa. Let's watch a video on Mariam, narrated by last year's winner of the ICFJ Founders Award for Excellence in Journalism, Andrea Mitchell of NBC News.
Good evening. It's such a pleasure to once again be part of such an important event. Our next winner reports on some of the most difficult stories to tell as a journalist, and she does it with great sensitivity and courage. A severe humanitarian crisis is unfolding in Burkina Faso. The once stable West African nation faced 2 military coups in 2022. More than 2 million people have been displaced by the chaos caused by violent extremist groups linked to Al-Qaeda and the Islamic State. Mariam Ouédraogo, a journalist for the national newspaper Citoyen, is determined to bring change to her country. She writes about the conflict from the harrowing perspective of women.
Les femmes et les enfants font partie intégrante de notre communauté et ce sont ces personnes le plus souvent qui vivent des situations dramatiques et dans le silence.
In a powerful series of reports, Ouédraogo spoke to women who were kidnapped, tortured, and raped as they fled their villages. A mother endured 20 lashes in front of her children. Girls as young as 12 were beaten and traumatized. A pregnant woman was brutally attacked, leaving her unborn child with a broken arm. Some of those raped gave birth to children and were then rejected by their families and communities. Many chose to suffer in silence.
Mais la principale difficulté, c'est d'abord amener les femmes à se confier, puisque la plupart des sujets touchent leur intimité. Et non, d'abord, il faut les protéger, leur dignité, pour ne pas ajouter de la peine à la peine.
Ouédraogo learned empathy at a very young age. She moved to Burkina Faso from the Ivory Coast to live with her grandmother, who taught her to care for her community.
J'ai compris qu'on a l'obligation de soutenir toutes les personnes en détresse. J'ai décidé personnellement de devenir journaliste parce que je me dis qu'à travers ma plume, les productions journalistiques, on peut changer les choses.
In 2016, she immersed herself with homeless women in Ouédrago, the nation's capital. Among them, a mother who struggled with long-term mental health issues. Her report spurred the government to take action, providing hostels and assistance for those in need. Her outstanding work caught the attention of the world, earning the prestigious Bayou Calvados Normandy Award for War Correspondence in 2022. The first African female journalist and only the second African to win that award in its 30-year history. Ouédraogo's achievements were not without a personal toll. She developed PTSD as she absorbed horrific stories of sexual violence from survivors. When I talk about it, I relive this situation again, she told the New York Times in their profile. She now advocates for improved mental health care for media workers, a testament to her own deep commitment to helping people.
Mais je dois encore poursuivre et pour porter encore plus haut les voix des sans-voix.
Please welcome Mariam Ouédraogo, who will speak in French. Krista Thompson, Washington Post managing editor and a member of ICFJ's board, will read Mariam's speech in English.
Sorry.
Merci. Mesdames et messieurs, je tiens à remercier ICFJ qui a rendu ce moment possible. Recevoir ce prix est une surprise pour moi, car j'ignorais que mon travail avait autant d'impact sur la vie des gens.
Ladies and gentlemen, I want to thank the ICFJ who made this moment possible. Receiving this award is a surprise for me because I didn't know how my work had such an impact on people's lives.
Travailler sur les femmes violentées par les terroristes a été une expérience enrichissante, mais aussi douloureuse pour moi. Douloureuse parce que j'ai été très affectée par les récits de ces femmes rescapées de l'enfer terroriste, violées et prostituées. Ces expériences m'ont tellement affectée que j'ai dû suivre une psychothérapie et prendre un arrêt de travail.
Covering women abused by terrorists has been an enriching but also painful experience for me. Painful because I was deeply moved by the accounts of women who were prostituted and raped by terrorist groups but who managed to escape that hell. These experiences impacted me so much that I had to undergo psychotherapy and take time off work.
Et après cet arrêt de travail, j'ai dû reprendre la route du centre-nord pour rencontrer d'autres survivantes des violences terroristes et écouter les récits de leurs viols, avortements, tentatives de suicide et répudiation. Ces nouveaux récits troublants ont une fois de plus impacté ma santé.
After my medical leave, without having fully recovered, I headed back to the field to meet other survivors of terrorist violence and hear their accounts of rape, abortions, suicide attempts, and repudiation by society. These disturbing new accounts once again had an impact on my health.
Mais j'estime que c'est un devoir pour moi de reprendre le terrain et être les yeux et les oreilles de la société. Et finalement, cela en valait tellement la peine parce que je suis réconfortée aujourd'hui par les nombreuses marques de reconnaissance comme celle de ce soir.
But I feel that it is my duty to go back in the field, to be the eyes and ears of society. In the end, it has been worth it because in addition to the actions taken for these victims, I am comforted by the many expressions of recognition like the one today.
Et c'est pourquoi je voudrais dédier ce prix à tous ceux qui se battent pour un monde meilleur. D'abord à mon média, les éditions Citoyens, qui m'a aidé à amplifier les cris de détresse de ces femmes meurtries. Et à 3 personnes qui ont su tracer ma voie. D'abord, ma grand-mère maternelle, qui aidait toujours tous ceux qui en avaient le besoin. Et ma mère, cette intrépide dame, a tant fait pour aider ses enfants et toute personne en difficulté. Et à mon père, qui a travaillé dur pour s'occuper de sa famille, que de là-haut, ma mamie et mon père continuent de nous inspirer.
I would like to dedicate this award to all those who are fighting for a better world. To my media additions, Citoyens, which has helped me amplify the cries of distress of these battered women, to 3 people who paved the way for me. My maternal grandmother always helped those in need. My mother, this intrepid woman, does so much to help her children and anyone in difficulty. My father, who worked hard to look after his family, may he and my grandma continue to inspire us from above.
Enfin, à toutes ces femmes qui croupissent dans la douleur et dans le silence du fait de la violence des conflits et qui se battent pour leur survie et celle de leur progéniture, je leur dédie ce prix. Et je prie enfin pour que la paix revienne dans mon Burkina Faso et dans les autres pays en proie aux attaques terroristes. Je vous remercie.
Finally, to all the women who languish in pain and silence because of the violence of conflict, fighting for their and their children's survival, I dedicate this prize to you, and I pray that peace will return to my Burkina Faso and other countries under terrorist attack. Thank you very much. Speaking for myself, Krissa, I must say, Mariam, it is an honor to meet you and to be a part of this well-deserved award. Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you, Mariam. Your commitment to amplifying the voices of women in Burkina Faso despite great personal risk is very inspiring to all of us. Our second Knight International Journalism Award goes to Lebanese investigative journalist Riad Kobaissi. Riad is known throughout the Middle East for his relentless investigations into corruption. Let's watch a video about Riad, narrated by Bill Whitaker of 60 Minutes and winner of ICFJ's 2021 Founders Award for Excellence in Journalism.
It's an honor to take part once again in this year's tribute and to tell you about a journalist who bravely investigates corruption at the highest levels of power. On a regular August day in 2020, a fireball erupted from the Beirut port. An explosion so massive it released a shockwave that killed more than 200 people and damaged 77,000 apartments. A pioneer in Lebanon's investigative reporting movement, Riad Kobaissi and his team at Al Jadid fearlessly exposed officials who knew that thousands of tons of chemicals were haphazardly stored in Hangar 12. Officials who knew it was an accident waiting to happen.
The day after the explosion and even months after that, we were concentrating on revealing every document that shows who knew about the ammonium nitrate and they didn't take the proper action.
By the time of the explosion, Kobaissi had been covering corruption at the port and among customs officials for a decade, broadcasting video of officials accepting bribes and even confronting them with the footage. Those who were arrested as a result and even imprisoned still kept their jobs.
What I've learned is that these people are appointed there in their positions because they are qualified. But qualified for what? Qualified to collect money for the mafia governing this country.
By mafia, Kobaissi means the political elite who run Lebanon. He says those elite are also responsible for the current financial crisis, which has plunged 80% of the population into poverty. 3 years before the economic collapse, while the country was living an illusion of financial stability, Kobaissi and colleagues broadcast stunning revelations about the central bank governor. Riad Salemi had opened a secret Swiss bank account.
It was like a red flag for me that I tried to show to the people. He himself didn't trust the system, and the proof is that he decided to take his money outside of Lebanon.
Salemi had helped design what critics describe as a Ponzi scheme to prop up the currency. When that scheme collapsed in 2019, the economy went into freefall. Working with the Organized Crime and Corruption Reporting Project and Daraj Media, Kobaissi helped spotlight Salemi's shady dealings. France and Germany have now issued warrants for the central bank governor's arrest, and the US, Britain, and Canada have sanctioned him. Kobaissi started his career as a newspaper reporter before joining Al Jadid in 2006, where he leads the investigative unit. As an anchor, he is known for a provocative and confrontational style.
I am the one who knocks.
Married to a fellow journalist and the father of twin boys, his work has put him at great risk. He's been threatened, beaten, and arrested for his reporting and has experienced burnout from the pressures of the job. But his mission hasn't wavered. Riad Kobaissi holds politicians accountable.
These people, they do feel like us, they do sweat like us the moment a journalist will confront them with facts. And that is the role of a journalist, to confront politicians with facts.
Please welcome to the stage Riad Kobaissi.
Marhaba, which is the Lebanese hi. 3 weeks ago, I had intended to share the story of how my journey in combating corruption in Lebanon began 12 years ago. I wanted to elaborate on the prevalence of corrupt politicians and subservient judges in my country, Lebanon, which is suffering from an economic meltdown fueled by inept leadership. My country, Lebanon, where the capital, Beirut, was partially destroyed, and more than 200 people were killed as a result of criminal negligence by incompetent and corrupt government officials who allowed 2,750 tons of explosive materials to be stored at the port in the heart of the city. 3 weeks ago, I was planning to offer insights of how Lebanese journalists have overcome challenges and threats, ultimately contributing to accountability and transparency. However, 3 weeks ago, a friend of mine was tragically killed with an Israeli shell fire in southern Lebanon while covering border clashes. 4 more journalists sustained serious injuries. His name is Issam Abdullah, a Reuters video journalist. By the time of his death, when he was killed with an Israeli shell fire, he was doing nothing more controversial than providing a live video link for broadcasters. He was shelled, despite the fact that his clothing clearly distinguished him as a press, and he and the rest of his colleagues were filming in an agreed location. Issam paid the ultimate price for his pursuit for the truth. I dedicate this award to Issam and to my Lebanese colleagues who have frequently placed themselves in harm's way to reveal the truth. Regrettably, with a catastrophic death toll, definitely, this is not an appropriate moment for me to celebrate an award that I've long aspired to attain. Instead, I see it as an opportunity to advocate for a balanced and objective media coverage of the ongoing conflict in the region. And I'm not talking about impartiality. Balanced and objective and factual media coverage of the ongoing conflict in the region, something which many Western media outlets have always championed, yet unfortunately, some fail to achieve. I'm grateful for this award. I thank my family, my wife, my 2 kids, and my colleagues at the investigative unit. I thank Al Jadid TV for its support and for all the hard times and threats that we have endured together. I thank Rana Sabbah for her amazing role in establishing investigative units in the Arab world and for nominating me for this award. I thank Daraj Media and OCCRP for choosing me to be part of the investigation you saw in the video. I thank ICFJ for supporting investigative journalism. And I thank the courageous people of Lebanon for their stand against corruption backed and protected by mafias in Lebanon. During the past 12 years, I have faced many challenges and setbacks. I've been depressed and frustrated. I even quit investigative journalism for a short period. But I pledge the people of Lebanon that I will continue with my colleagues to produce investigative stories substantiated with solid evidences. And we will do so to remind those who think they are unaccountable that there are always consequences. Thank you.
Thank you, Jim. But most of all, Madame Ouédraogo, Mr. Kobaissi, thank you very much for your poignant and strong words for us tonight. Those of us who rarely, if ever, think about the physical risks and the psychological trauma of being a journalist are in awe of your dedication, and your readers and viewers are better for your work. Riad, we are so sorry for the loss of your friend and fellow journalist. He is one of 33 journalists killed so far in the war, a staggering toll. I also want to thank the distinguished panel of judges who selected these amazing winners, and you can see their names on the screen. And now, I'd like to welcome Jason Wright, Development Chair of ICFJ's Board of Directors, and Patrick Steele, former CEO of Politico and a close advisor to ICFJ.
Thanks, Jonathan. Patrick and I are here actually to shill tonight, so. ICFJ, it really can't do its work without your help. And we're hearing these, I'm going to frankly be a little bit extemporaneous, so the teleprompter guy's going to go crazy. But, but we really, when you see these stories, and those of us who are fortunate enough to spend time with folks who do this for a living but don't have to do it, the one thing we can do, frankly, is bring money to the equation, and it actually matters. And when I look at ICFJ and why I'm on this board, and why you're supporting, frankly, over 100,000 journalists around the world. It's not simply waving the flag for them, but it's providing them with skills that are necessary to do what they do. And so you're directly involved, frankly, in the transparency that these journalists are trying to bring to us all. And the only way we can do it, those of us who aren't journalists, is to write a check. So I think, we're both up here, frankly, as I say, to shill for the organization, but it's one I couldn't be prouder to shill for. So, that's why we ask you tonight to donate so that ICFJ can expand this mission. From Russia to India to Nicaragua, autocrats are doing their best to silence journalists because they don't want the public to be informed. And your donations to ICFJ can help journalists fight back. And donating is very easy. Simply take out your phones. They have, in my notes, I'm supposed to flash mine, so that's my phone. And make a tax-deductible donation. Right about now, you should receive a text or an email with a link to donate. Just click the link and make a pledge, and your name will appear on the big screen, tonight. So we're going to make you famous also, but do something that's meaningful. You also have an option to give anonymously. And if you don't receive a link, just text ICFJ to 76278. And if you're having trouble doing that, raise your hand and one of our, analog people will find you and help you to do it instead. Looking at the list, at least in front of me, Rob and Maureen Regg, Rob who's on this board, they're kicking this off with a donation of $5,000 tonight. So thank you, Rob and Maureen. ICFJ deeply appreciates the support, and let's keep it going. I'm also supposed to show you this. You have these at your table, with your donation cards. You can fill those out, raise your hand, and an ICFJ staffer will collect it.
Richard Gingras, $5,000.
And, thank you, Richard. Gengris, another $5,000, which was great. Thank you very much. And let's raise as much money as possible. Jose Zamora, who's somewhere here, who's also, on our board, Paul Beckett, IGF staffers, they're going to help you out, also on this front. So anyway, I think I'll leave it to you.
Yep.
Patrick.
Good evening. My message is a pretty simple one. Good journalism comes at a price. I want everybody in this room just to say it. Good journalism comes at a price. You can say it out loud, you can whisper it, but it doesn't matter how you say it, it will not change the facts. I've watched my former colleague, Carrie Budoff-Brown, who we are so exceptionally thrilled to see take over the board chair at ICFJ. I watched her practice this good journalism to astounding impact at Politico. Essential, trustworthy, and nonpartisan, she would always say, as we rose to become one of the fastest growing and sustainable media companies that exist anywhere. So Jason and I are going to give you 3 great reasons to support IFJ. First, and we've already seen it tonight, the risks to reporters are growing every day. Mexico, which is on our southern border and our largest trading partner, is now one of the most dangerous places in the world outside of an active war zone to be a journalist. And what's happening is these journalists are doing good journalism and they're exposing organized crime and corruption and they're getting killed for it. Number 2, supporting a free press is an essential component of our democratic process. If people in this room are concerned about millions of people in the U.S., including Spanish language communities in this country that do not have access to accurate and timely information, you can support ICFJ to make a tangible difference right now. Good journalism allows citizens to distinguish between truth and fiction. In 1973, when Bob Woodward and Carl Bernstein led the Watergate investigation, the Washington Post was a Fortune 500 company. The news industry comprised some of the most powerful and profitable companies on earth. That is simply not the case today. We need to help bridge that gap. I see so many terrific journalists in this room today. I was sitting with a group from the Financial Times, my former colleagues from Politico. There's a whole table here, including our old managing editor, Sudeep Reddy. These are really remarkable people that have dedicated their life to journalism. Yes, they were likely born with the unique ability to question, to challenge the status quo, to question authority, but they were trained and they were mentored and they were developed. And that is exactly what ICFJ does every day on the front lines of the toughest fights that are being waged everywhere. They teach, they train, they mentor, and they develop journalistic talent. This is why we are here tonight, and this is why ICFJ needs your support. Go tell your friends, tell other journalists that they should come here next year. Talk to your companies about this, your organizations. This is not a nice to have. This is a must-have. We need to do this right now. My wife, Lee Satterfield, and I support ICFJ because it's important to this community in this room, and it's important to this city, it's important to our country, and it's important to our world. So please join me in supporting ICFJ, and just remember, good journalism comes at a price. Thank you so much.
Here's a third reason. No other organization provides tools to journalists in as many languages as ICFJ does. Every week, tens of thousands of them turn to ICFJ for resources that help them better report on the most urgent challenges, from the uncertainty of artificial intelligence to the brutality of the war. And ICFJ does it all in 8 languages. But that takes money, folks. I want to depart a bit, and I like to do that. But I got involved in this organization and on this board because, we've already mentioned our friend Jim Hogue, who frankly is on this board for a long time. But Jim came to see me when I was at Merrill Lynch. And ICFJ had an idea for a program that they wanted to do in business journalism, but in China. And he kind of laid it out, and basically Bloomberg got, partnered up with us to underwrite a master's program in business journalism at Tsinghua, which is the MIT of China. And making my pitch within my own company, I said, this is a real simple ask. And I was perfectly happy to push for this because I said, if those of us in the room who are in business who go, oh, what do we care about journalists. They get everything wrong all the time. I don't know if that's true or not, but that's what a lot of business people say. But ultimately, what I said is, if you really think that, then you should be investing in making journalists smarter. And that's frankly what ICFJ does. They make journalists smarter. They provide the resources. We mentioned Maria Ressa from Rappler, from the Philippines, who got an award from us last year or the year before. But the most interesting thing about that was Maria, while she was getting her award here, who was an ICFJ fellow, she got indicted by the Duterte government while she was at this lectern giving an acceptance speech. So we like to, I think Kathy Lacey said, cause good trouble, And, as I said, the other one was last year we had two wonderful young reporters who were in Ukraine, who are young, and they're babies, and they're so wonderful. But they were here, and then we had a board meeting the next day, and they were talking about the fact that what they're actually doing is they're in the woods in Ukraine, documenting the atrocities, the mass graves, which of course no one in their 20s should have to do. But we do something very important. We make things like that possible. So one more time, just to put in my pitch for this organization, the risks to reporters are growing every day. Supporting a free press is an essential component, of our daily process and information. If we can move the teleprompter, whatever, are we back to you? Anyway, we'll see. But anyway, the whole point is support it. It's a really, an opportunity for you to play a direct part in making the world all the more transparent, holding truth to power, and enabling these journalists, as we said, more than 100,000 of them, better at what they do because of what we do. So with that, I want to say thank you.
That is called going rogue. Jason, Patrick, thank you very much. Worldwide, more than 350 journalists are unjustly in jail because of their work. Two of the most prominent are Jose Ruben Zamora, president of the now shuttered El Periódico in Guatemala, and Evan Gershkovich, Moscow correspondent for the Wall Street Journal in Russia. Please welcome Jose Ruben Zamora's son, Jose Zamora, Chief Communications and Impact Officer for Exile Content Studio and a member of ICFJ's board, and Paul Beckett, Assistant Editor of the Wall Street Journal.
Thank you, Jonathan. Congratulations to all the amazing and inspiring winners, and thank you to ICFJ. In June of 2022, my father, a winner of ICFJ's Night Award in 2003, was sentenced to 6 years in prison without parole. After his conviction, 25 winners of ICFJ's Night Award wrote a letter to my father expressing their solidarity and calling on authorities to release him. They are among tens of thousands around the world who have joined to demand his freedom. On October 14, the appeals court overturned his sentence and ordered a retrial. But he's still in prison. Guatemalan authorities did not imprison my father or silence him or even his newspaper, just to silence him. They did it to send a message to all journalists in Guatemala. If you investigate us, you will pay a high price. We cannot let this message win out. We cannot let independent journalism in Guatemala, in Central America, or anywhere else in the world falter. I am very grateful to ICFJ and Knight Foundation for their support. And I ask all of you to add your voices to the effort to free my father, who has been held hostage by the Guatemalan government for over 460 days, using the hashtag Free Zamora and Zamora Libre. Thank you.
Less than a month ago,
a Russian court upheld Evan's detention on a patently false charge, denying his lawyer's latest appeal to free him since he was arrested during a reporting trip. He faces 20 years in prison for doing nothing else than being a reporter. Evan recently marked his 32nd birthday in jail. The US government has officially designated Evan wrongfully detained, which means that the Secretary of State has determined that he is, in effect, a hostage. Evan is the first American journalist detained in Russia since the Cold War. But he is not the last. Another US journalist, Alsa Kurmasheva of Radio Free Europe, Radio Liberty, was arrested just 2 weeks ago in Russia. The message is clear. Russia wants the world to think that independent reporting is a crime. We are here to say that journalism is not a crime. Securing Evan's release is so important to the Wall Street Journal that I am now working full-time on his behalf. The only way we can win is to keep the pressure on and to keep Evan's name in the news. For that, we need your help. Please put out the message, #IStandWithEvan, on whatever platforms you are on. Evan must be brought back to his family and back to the newsroom where he belongs. Thank you, and we greatly appreciate your support.
Jose Zamora, Paul Beckett, thank you. We definitely share your outrage over these jailings and stand in solidarity with Jose Ruben Zamora and Evan Gershovich, and every other journalist unjustly imprisoned and threatened. I also want to note that today is the International Day to End Impunity for Crimes Against Journalists. Since 2006, more than 1,600 journalists have been killed around the world, and nearly 90% of these killings remain judicially unresolved, according to UNESCO. This year, the commemoration of this somber day is happening here in Washington, D.C., at the Organization of American States. We welcome the officials from UNESCO and the OAS who are here tonight, and thank you for keeping these unpunished crimes in the public eye. When we talk about the power of journalism, we cannot forget photography. Please welcome my Washington Post colleague, the Director of Photography, Marianne Golan, to present our next award. Marianne, previously photo editor at Time Magazine, has won numerous picture editing awards. Marianne.
Thank you so much, Jonathan. I'm honored to present ICFJ's inaugural Award for Excellence in Visual Journalism to Mr. James Nachtwey. Working with this extraordinary visual storyteller, first at Time Magazine for more than 20 years, and now recently with the Washington Post, has been a profound and important honor for me personally. I love him very much. When a conflict or a tragedy erupts anywhere in the world, Jim is likely on his way or already there, making the meaningful images that make us all look, see, care, and inspire us to help. We're going to slow it down a little bit right now and look at a collection of photographs that Jim curated himself. Earlier this year, Anderson Cooper interviewed Jim for a 60 Minutes episode. Let's listen to just a snippet of that. After looking at those photographs, I think you now understand what I said about it being a profound honor to work for more than 30 years with tonight's honoree, Mr. James Nachtwey.
Despite the maxim that one is entitled to their own opinions, but not to their own facts, we are living in a time when so-called alternative facts have become a serious challenge to the truth, and the mission of the ICFJ is more important than ever. We're all aware of how elusive the truth can be, and legitimate journalists and news organizations pursue the facts through ever-evolving layers of complexity in order to approach the truth. The work is difficult, painstaking, relentless, and often dangerous. In order to be effective, it must be done with integrity, and it must be perceived that way by the public. Being accountable to a professional code of ethics is what distinguishes legitimate journalism from the arbitrary offerings on social media, where anyone is free to say whatever they want, regardless of the facts and regardless of the consequences. ICFJ not only teaches emerging journalists their craft, it also instills in them the value of integrity. I applaud your work and I thank you for it. And I want to thank you for acknowledging my own work. But I am only one among many. It's the critical mass of all of our work together that can shed some light into a world that appears to be ever darkening, as we are now witnessing in the Middle East and Ukraine, in the crises of immigration, homelessness, gun control, and climate change, to cite just a few examples. To use the weight of the truth to counteract the proliferation of misinformation that has become increasingly influential, to make an appeal to reason and decency, and remind us of our common humanity in the face of growing polarization, both at home and abroad. That's what is truly being recognized here this evening. Godspeed.
Thank you, Marianne, and congratulations, Mr. Nachtwey. After seeing all of those photographs, they are tragic, they are beautiful, they are awe-inspiring, they are inspirational in a way that, speaking personally, makes me proud to be a journalist for the stories that your photographs so poignantly tell. Congratulations again. Now let's welcome ICFJ board member and Tribute co-chair David Elliot Cohen to tell us about a stunning collection of photos that you can bid on to benefit ICFJ. David has created more than 70 photography books, including the best-selling series A Day in the Life and America 24/7, which he produced with Rick Smolin. They have collectively sold more than 5 million copies.
Thank you, Jonathan. Jim, you may not know this, but your 2001 Time cover story on African AIDS directly inspired me to produce the last of my Day in the Life books, A Day in the Life of Africa. And all the proceeds of that book went to support AIDS education in Africa. I'm delighted to have gathered, with the help of Eliane Lafont, this collection of photographs donated by 17 of the most legendary photojournalists of our time, including James Nachtwey, of course. This is a spectacular collection of signed and framed images printed on archival paper, and the good news is that you can own one, or more than one, while supporting ICFJ. Thank you. Take a look. Pulitzer Prize winner and presidential photographer David Hume Kennerly captured this decisive moment at the Ali Frazier Fight of the Century at New York's Madison Square Garden in 1971. The renowned Sebastião Salgado calls this image Fortress of Solitude. It's from his Genesis series, an 8-year mission to document environments and communities around the world in their pristine state. 4-time Pulitzer Prize winner Carol Guzzi captured mourners at the funeral of a Ukrainian soldier just this past year, and Lynn Goldsmith captured her friend, singer, songwriter, poet, Patti Smith at the Iran war protest in 1975, and Lynn is also with us tonight. These brilliant photos were displayed a few weeks ago at the prestigious Finley Galleries in New York. But if you're here tonight, you can see these and 13 other classic photos in person. And if you're watching online, you can see them by going to ICFJGiveSmart.com. That's ICFJ.GiveSmart.com. To bid, all you have to do is text ICFJ to 76278 or go to the ICFJGiveSmart.com and follow the instructions on your device. We'll close the bidding at 9:15 p.m. Washington time, so please don't miss this rare opportunity. Thank you very much.
Thank you, David. 2023 was a sad year for ICFJ, which lost 2 of its most vibrant leaders from the past 20 years. Longtime board chair and friend James Hogue and former president David Annable. I invite board members Pamela Howard, co-chair of this event, and Wendell Reilly, chair of the audit committee, to join me on stage.
I will be eternally grateful to David Annable for welcoming me to ICFJ's board 2 decades ago. David was a steady and beloved leader, beloved by staff members and partners in ICFJ. He was a native Englishman who was editor of the Christian Science Monitor and proudly chaired the journalism school at Boston University. He had a wry sense of humor and an easygoing way about him that was magical. He was unflinching in his commitment to ethical journalism. He was passionate for helping journalists around the globe through all his work for ICFJ. He is missed.
Jim Hogue served on ICFJ's board for more than 3 decades, including as the chair and vice chair. He joined the board as he began an 18-year stint as editor of Foreign Affairs, following his exceptional leadership at the Chicago Sun-Times and the New York Daily News. Jim brought his deep commitment to journalistic excellence to ICFJ. Last year, ICFJ established the Jim Hogue Legacy Fund to support emerging news leaders reporting on issues of critical global importance. Jim was able to meet and advise 2 of the inaugural fellows before he passed away. We look forward to sharing their stories with you. I also want to recognize Jim's beloved wife, Kathy Lacey, who is making good trouble with us here tonight.
We deeply miss David and Jim, but their legacies live on through the journalists that ICFJ helps around the world. Thank you all for being here, and good evening.
Pam and Wendell, thank you very much. And now, on to the final award of the evening. Here to present it is Richard Gienegrass, Vice President of News at Google and a longtime ICFJ board member.
First of all, I just have to note what an extraordinary privilege it has been to be involved with ICFJ over the years, and what an extraordinary inspiration it has been not only to see their work, but the work of the journalists that ICFJ helps support and enable. And I thank you for your support as well. Again, thank you, Jonathan. I'm very pleased to present ICFJ's Founders Award for Excellence in Journalism, named for the trio of visionary journalists who created ICFJ almost 40 years ago: Jim Ewing, George Crimsey, and Tom Winship. They're no longer with us, but their families remain engaged with ICFJ and supportive of its efforts. What keeps me up at night is the deep challenge of divisiveness in our societies, the ongoing we versus they that constantly plays itself out in politics and in media. Each of us, in our own way, must help find a more thoughtful way forward. When I think of journalists who do that, I think of Wolf Blitzer. In a career spanning more than 5 decades, his unrelenting reporting, his balanced analysis, and his commitment to informing the world have earned him the trust and respect of viewers and has helped shape the landscape of modern news. Let's watch a video about this remarkable journalist, narrated by Michelle Miller of CBS News.
I'm honored to tell you about the last winner of the night, whose exceptional career as a journalist has inspired and informed so many of us.
Now we're rolling. For a generation of viewers, Wolf Blitzer has been providing insight into what's going on in the world.
Thank you very, very much. Are you willing to cede any territory at all to Russia to make a peace deal and end this war?
Bringing context to what's happening and what it means to us.
Was it a mistake, Madam Secretary, to downplay this inflation risk?
Look, I think I was wrong then.
Happening now.
As anchor of the Situation Room on CNN, Blitzer is a trusted voice in times of crisis, reporting on the 9/11 terror attacks.
Almost unprecedented decoy helicopters, Marine helicopters, joining him in order to get to the White House.
The wars in Afghanistan and Iraq.
We're in the western part of Baghdad right now.
And the COVID-19 pandemic.
Is the worst still yet to come?
Well, I hope not, Wolf, but it is conceivable that things could get a little worse.
Blitzer is also a reliable place to turn to understand our increasingly fractious political landscape.
This is an incredibly dangerous situation that's unfolding here in the United States. CNN can now project...
He has reported on 8 presidential elections.
Capping his improbable political journey with an astounding upset victory.
Excuse me. I have said the
Secretary,
exact same
Senator,
thing.
please.
And moderated 12 presidential debates.
Secretary, the viewers...
Let's do it.
If you're both screaming at each other, the viewers won't be able to hear either of you.
Born in Bavaria in 1948 to parents who had both survived Nazi concentration camps, Blitzer's family soon immigrated to the United States. He was raised in Buffalo, New York, attending college there, then getting a master's degree in international relations at Johns Hopkins University. He began his journalism career at Reuters in Tel Aviv before joining the Jerusalem Post as Washington correspondent. He reported extensively on the historic Mideast Peace Treaty in 1978 and wrote a book about it. In 1986, he landed the only interview with convicted spy Jonathan Pollard and wrote his second book about the American who sold top-secret U.S. intelligence to Israel. Blitzer jumped to TV in 1990, becoming CNN's military affairs correspondent, and within months was covering the first Gulf War.
They say that the United States wanted to start the attack at night.
Blitzer was dispatched to Moscow to report on the end of the Soviet Union.
The Commonwealth might follow the path of the Soviet Union.
He also traveled to South Africa to interview Nelson Mandela, a career highlight.
What has happened in South Africa today is a miracle. Red flags for President Biden's re-election campaign.
Although he's a well-established anchor at CNN, Blitzer often goes where the action is, covering conflict in Israel.
You can hear the sirens have just gone off, so we're all being told to get to a shelter.
And searching for accountability in Saudi Arabia for the murder of reporter Jamal Khashoggi.
What is there to raise, Wolf?
The U.S. intelligence community, as you know, concluded that the Crown Prince effectively ordered the killing of Jamal Khashoggi.
I don't believe that was specified in those terms.
How are you?
Even taking a run in North Korea with the national girls ice hockey team.
I couldn't help but join them.
For Holocaust Remembrance Day, Blitzer took a deeply personal journey to Auschwitz with fellow anchor Dana Bash.
I learned today the specific gas chamber where almost certainly my paternal grandparents were murdered.
He didn't just learn it, we were standing inside of it.
Blitzer has been a mentor to Bash since she ran the teleprompter for him when she started at CNN.
He is really approachable and is one of the nicest, if not the nicest, people in television news.
And he has a sense of humor.
Whatever room I'm in, there's a situation. I'm Wolf Blitzer, you're in the Situation Room.
That's where Wolf Blitzer continues to bring fresh insight into what's happening.
Israel declaring it is at war with Hamas.
As you know, Wolf is in Tel Aviv and unable to be with us. Accepting the award for Wolf is Emily Atkinson, the executive producer of The Situation Room with Wolf Blitzer. Emily has been with CNN for 27 years.
Thank you, Richard, and thank you to ICFJ. It's been my great honor to have worked with Wolf on The Situation Room for the last 17 years, first as an associate producer and most recently as his executive producer. Over that time, he's become not only a mentor, but a friend. I've been in the audience almost every year that Wolf has served as master of ceremonies of this event, so I can't tell you how honored I am to stand up here and accept this award on his behalf. I know how important ICFJ is to Wolf and how much he wanted to be here, but as he's instilled in all of us who work with him every day, the news comes first. Those are the words Ted Turner instilled in him 33 years ago. As you all know, Wolf is in Israel covering the war with Hamas, but he was able to record these remarks, so let's watch.
Hello from Tel Aviv to all my friends at the International Center for Journalists. Thank you so much for this truly wonderful honor. I am grateful. I would have loved to have been with you tonight, but I'm here in Israel doing the work at the heart of this award, reporting international news with huge consequences for the entire world. I'm thinking of all of my colleagues here in the Middle East and indeed around the globe putting their lives at risk to report on the Israel-Hamas war, the war in Ukraine, and other conflicts. We have lost so many of them, too many. Their work, our work, is more important than ever. in a volatile world where freedom of the press is often under attack. And that makes your work at the International Center for Journalists even more crucial than ever. The programs you offer and the resources you provide are a lifeline for journalists dedicated to reporting international news. I am so proud to support your organization, and I am humbled to be honored by you tonight. As I stand here in Tel Aviv tonight, I have so many memories of my journey as a journalist. This is where I actually got my start, here in Tel Aviv, after I finished graduate school at the Johns Hopkins University School of Advanced International Studies in Washington. I was very lucky indeed, to get my first job with the Reuters news agency in their Tel Aviv bureau. I was fortunate to work with the veteran British journalists who were with me in Tel Aviv. They taught me journalism. Just report the news, Wolf, they said. That's what we want. And I have been doing that ever since, covering the first Gulf War for CNN over at the Pentagon, traveling to Kuwait City to cover the second Gulf War, and to Fallujah in Iraq to cover its aftermath. During my 33 years at CNN, international news has been a prime focus for me, including my reporting from Moscow on the failed Soviet coup and the ultimate collapse of the Soviet Union, and 6 days in North Korea with the late Bill Richardson. And of course, there have been so many stories with far-reaching global implications that we have covered during my 18 years anchoring the Situation Room. I am grateful to CNN for committing so much airtime and resources to international news. And I am fortunate to have a platform to report on the kinds of stories that have been such an integral part of my work as a journalist over all these years. The events we cover, the facts we share, the truths we reveal have the ability to inform and influence people during very, very dangerous times. And so I have come full circle here in Tel Aviv tonight as I receive the Founders Award for Excellence in Journalism. I will do all I can to live up to that very high standard. Thank you again for this truly extraordinary recognition.
Thank you, Richard and Emily. Wolf has been an inspiration to me for years. He even took a phone call from me once so I could talk to him to get advice on what to do in this crazy business of television news. He has always been generous with his time. And I swear this beard it's coming off tomorrow. As Emily said, Wolf was the MC of this event for 10 years. I am humbled to even try to fill his shoes. And let me repeat, this is coming off tomorrow. Thanks to all of you who are supporting ICFJ. That is wonderful, but we don't want to stop there. It's not too late to give. If you want a photo, you'll be notified in just a few minutes. Once again, I want to congratulate Wolf Blitzer, James Nachtwey, Jacqueline Charles, Riad Kobaissi, and Mariam Ouédraogo. We are truly in awe of your bravery and your extraordinary work. And now please welcome back ICFJ's new board chair, Carrie Budoff-Brown, and ICFJ President Sharon Moshavi.
I'll try it without the stool this time. See how it goes. Thank you, Jonathan. We look forward to you emceeing this event for as many years as Wolf did, so get ready and we'll see you back here next year. And thanks to all of you for joining us. Yeah, let's have a round of applause for Jonathan Capehart. I'd like to once again thank all of our sponsors for the support that makes ICFJ's work possible. You can see them on the screen. Thanks to ICFJ's amazing board of directors, especially my predecessor, Michael Golden, our tribute chair, Jason Wright, and co-chairs Pamela Howard, Loretta Bruno, and David Elliot Cohen. And now I'm going to pass it over to Sharon, who also deserves a round of applause for the amazing work that Sharon does. I hope you all are as inspired as I am by the work that Sharon does and the work of so many people here. It's just extraordinary. Thank you.
Microphone up a little bit. So thank you, Carrie. Thank you for that. And thanks to ICFJ's amazing staff for the work they do every day. And a special thanks to those who should be up on the screen. Oh, not yet. Okay, anyway. Wrong slide. Okay. For their hard work making tonight a success. And there's one person I also wanted to just give a little attention to, another beloved part of the ICFJ family who is no longer with us, Hans Steiger, and who we miss and love and miss him every day. I also want to give a shout out to students and graduates of the Howard Center for Investigative Journalism at the University of Maryland who are here with us tonight. So glad you're here. And again, an enormous thank you to Jonathan and our fantastic award winners. You make us all incredibly proud. We want to single out just a few of the journalists in our network who are joining us online from around the world. Ana Carolina Araujo, Yusufo Sise, Nazek Elimlak, Rahul Samantha, Eti Arichi, and Nick Toso. Thank you all for the important work that you do. You are the reason we are here. And if you're here with us in person, please join us in the reception room now for drinks, coffee, and live music from DC Churro, and you'll have a chance to meet our award winners there. And good night from all of us. We will see you here next November 14th. Please save the date. This will be after the US presidential election, so I think we will all have a little something to talk about. So until then, thank you so much. Good night.